1 2 1 2. Tony, let me see my headphones right quick. This one here. All right. Okay, everybody. Welcome to the BRI, which is the Black Research Institute. My name is Denoris Wilson. I'm your host for tonight. And I know a lot of people are waiting and anxious to hear who I have on tonight. This is a very intelligent, driven, passionate Black Power brother. We're going to run this intro. And when I get back, we're going to introduce the brother to the BRI.
Everybody, you reached DJ Pink Diamond of DCS Entertainment. Just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. And also, you rocking with Denoris Wilson of the BRI, which is Black Research Institute. Stay tuned.
Okay, welcome back to the Black Research Institute, where we're here and we're committed to solving the problems. I'm not even going to waste no time. We're going to get right in the interview. I'd like to introduce everyone who is now watching the BRI to brother Dr. Umar Johnson.
Peace and Black Power. Glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming, brother. Thank you for coming. Before we get into the meat of the interview, Dr. Umar, I ask all my guests this: are you staying safe, brother?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great. So once again, man, I want to thank you for agreeing to the interview. I know that you're a busy person. You got a lot on your plate. You're trying to start the school. You're trying to, uplift Black community. You're trying to inform us of what we need to do and what's happening. So once again, man, I'm very appreciative of you for taking your time out of your day for taking this interview, man. Before we start, tell the people a little bit about Dr. Umar Johnson.
Doctor of Clinical Psychology, certified school psychologist, founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association, as well as Team Pan-African, former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's UNIA, author of the book Psychoacademic Holocaust, and the new book, which I'll be releasing in Charlotte this Thursday, December the 17th at Cuzzo's Cuisine, and that is Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War for Dealing with America's Public and Charter Schools, which is a 550 plus page book, which is basically an encyclopedia for Black parents that they can use to deal with issues ranging from special ed to learning disabilities to autism to ADHD, psychiatric medication. It's basically an encyclopedia that can help parents navigate almost any issue that they will be faced with in the public or charter school system. Okay, and of course, as you mentioned, I'm in the process of renovating one of the two schools that are on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy campus, which is a 4-building campus we purchased in February of last year. And we're trying to get the Nat Turner Gymnasium and the Marcus Garvey Elementary School functional by this coming spring.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff you're doing, brother. I mean, when do you have time to do anything else?
Uh, the work is the rest. So, I mean, I love what I do. I believe I was born to do it. So I don't really, the vacation time comes in stride, I guess. I rest when it's time to leave here, you know. In the meantime, got to try to do as much as we can while we have the time.
Now, I want to get a little bit into not the doctor part, but Umar himself. When did you know that the work that you're doing now is the work that you're supposed to be doing?
To be honest with you, I probably knew that since fourth grade. My life path was largely laid out between the ages of 8 and 11. When I was 8 years old, coincidentally, we were living in North Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, and it was in the state of North Carolina where I decided that I wanted to be a psychologist at the age of 8 in the third grade. At the age of 9 and 10, in Philadelphia at the Meade Elementary School, we had a Black History class. And that's when I was introduced to not only Black consciousness, but also public speaking by way of a Black History oratorical contest that I won both years. And so the consciousness and the public speaking married themselves together in the fourth and fifth grade. I had decided that I wanted to be a psychologist in the third grade. So by the age of 11, my life path had already been set. So, you know, I didn't come to consciousness late. I didn't come as a result of coming out of prison. I didn't come because I was disinvited from the Black bourgeoisie. I didn't come because white America didn't give me a seat at the table. This was always my work, and my professional education did not distract me from staying on my path.
Wow. So fourth grade.
Fourth grade.
So you've been battling a long time, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Been battling a long time. Like a lot of us, it takes a traumatic event for us to actually get on the path that you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, for me, it happened for me. Like I did some time in the federal, colleges. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm not ashamed of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It actually blessed me in a sense to make me sit down and ponder
yes. And detox the mind.
Right, and detox the mind. So, but you've been doing this since the fourth grade, man, and like I told you, me and you, we have Marcus Garvey is it for me. I told you this in the green room. Marcus Garvey is it for me. When did you discover Marcus Garvey?
I joined the UNIA, which coincidentally was 4 blocks away from the elementary school where I was introduced to Black consciousness and public speaking. So the two most important institutions with regard to my consciousness and public speaking were 4 blocks away, the elementary school and the UNIA. And I joined the UNIA approximately 1997 when I came out of undergrad. And I had never left since. I'm still a member now with the Detroit division of the UNIA. And it's interesting because my public speaking career got started in the UNIA because I was the youngest member in Philadelphia's division. It was mostly elders, and they would often ask me to speak on what a school psychologist was because they never heard of a school psychologist. And so one thing led to another. I started receiving requests to speak in other cities, other states. My first out-of-town lectures were for the UNIA: Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, Virginia, and DC. And it just kind of went on from there. So I never had a publicist. I would run into other scholars and they would ask me, who is your publicist? Like, how do you get all these speaking events? I never had a publicist. I didn't need one. It was all word of mouth. People would reach out to me and ask me to come speak here, speak there. And that's just how it started, purely by accident.
Wow. So you keep referencing the UNIA. And
Mhm.
me and you and I both we came to this conclusion. A lot of people don't know about Marcus Garvey, so they don't know what that acronym is. So tell them what the UNIA stands for.
Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, which is an organization founded by the Honorable Marcus Garvey the summer of 1914 in Jamaica. Upon his return from Europe, he came to America in 1916, had the first international convention in 1920, and by 1921, the UNIA globally had at least 13 million documented members, making it the largest mass Black organization in modern history, which is even more impressive when you understand the fact that Mr. Garvey is the only post-slavery leader of a mass organization who did not have to use religion to organize Black people.
Right. And also a fact that a lot of people don't know. Marcus Garvey was exiled out of America for tax evasion.
Well, it wasn't the tax evasion. It was the false J. Edgar Hoover charge
Right.
that he was using the United States mail to defraud
Right.
investors in connection with the Black Star Line
Right.
Steamship Corporation, which the only piece of evidence that was used to convict Mr. Garvey was an empty envelope
Mhm.
owned by someone who claimed to have been an employee of the Black Star Line from Philadelphia, ironically, by the name of Benny Dancy, who I believe it was later discovered was an agent who was paid to
Yep.
provide the false testimony to Marcus Garvey. But the case gets even more unjust when you find out that when President Calvin Coolidge decided to commute Garvey's sentence, he did not require extradition. So the commutation did not require that Marcus Garvey be expelled from the United States. It wasn't until Mr. Garvey was out of the country that he learned there was no extradition requirement as part of the commutation, but he was already gone. And at that point, the State Department decided not to let him back in.
Wow. So it
He
wasn't.
did not have to leave, but he did not know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I told you Marcus Garvey is it for me. So first of all, I often wondered why they didn't just knock him off, right? Like why they didn't just, assassinate him.
Well,
But then go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead,
he
brother.
had security, which would have made it difficult, but not impossible. If you
Right.
were to ask me why, I believe the sheer number of members in the
Exactly.
UNIA was greater than the entire military of the United States government. And so to try to dispose of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, you would have had hell on your hands, because 13 million globally, in the United States alone, you probably had at least 3 million. And again, this is 1920, and I don't think the government wanted, to have to deal with that type of a backlash for killing the preeminent leader of African people in the world at the time. And people need to understand that as well. Marcus Garvey was not just the leader of a religion or an organization or a church or a mosque. Okay, he was the undisputed leader of African people in the world at the time. He was a global leader. He was not just for Black America. He was not just for the Caribbean. He was not just for the continent. He was for everyone. There wasn't a community in the world that was not represented by a division of Garvey's movement during his lifetime.
And what makes that so amazing is there was no social media,
No airplane, no Twitter,
none of
no
that.
Instagram, no internet, none of that.
And for him to be global means that his impact was undeniable.
Oh, undeniable. Undeniable. I was on an interview, and the gentleman who interviewed me tried to make an underhanded jab at the Honorable Marcus Garvey. He said, well, Garvey never been to Africa. And I said, of course not. He wasn't allowed. And an interviewer said, well, I'm sure he could have snuck in somewhere, which basically spoke to his ignorance. Because if you know anything about African history, you know that in 1884, 1885, at the Berlin Conference, the entire continent was divided up by the European powers of the world, and they left no stone unturned. You had Ethiopia in the east and Liberia, which is debatable whether or not they were independent at the time. Those were the only countries that he could have possibly even went to, and Liberia was not trying to let him in. We know that Garvey tried to go to Liberia, and the United States Department of State sent W.E.B. Du Bois over to Liberia on assignment to disrupt Garvey's program to relocate to Liberia and build a community for expatriates looking to return home.
Right. Now, I see the picture of Booker T. Washington, right? Now, Booker T. Washington, from what I've read, Booker T. Washington and Du Bois, they were diametrically opposed to one another, right? Like one of them wanted blacks to advance through intelligence, and the other wanted blacks to gain a skill, right? Like Tuskegee is a institute where you can go and you can have a industrial skill. You can learn a skill, right? And when I've read, it shocked me that even though Du Bois, Booker T, and Marcus Garvey all experienced the same thing when it came to white America, like it wasn't, it wasn't no distinction in that regard, but they all had different ways of tackling it, right? Like they of addressing it. I couldn't understand why they couldn't get together, because I think like if Du Bois, Booker T, and Marcus came together, oh my God.
Well, Garvey came to America to meet with Booker T. Washington. They had been in correspondence with one another, and his initial purpose for coming to the United States was to get more information from Booker T on how to return to Jamaica and build a Tuskegee type of an institution in Jamaica. That was Garvey's original purpose. But when he finally arrived in 1916, Booker T had died. And R.R. Moulton, yes, they never got a chance to meet in the flesh. So R.R. Moulton, who was Booker T's vice president, who we learned later was an undercover U.S. Army intelligence agent who was sent to Tuskegee to spy on Booker T because he was using Tuskegee as a hideout for black radicals. So behind the cover in the allegations that Booker T was a sellout and a coon, there was actually a facade that he cleverly crafted so that he could operate more effectively in the dark behind closed doors, you see. And so Garvey wanted to meet with Booker T. And let us be clear, Booker T was a Pan-Africanist for many intents and purposes. Before Garvey ever held a international convention, Booker T held one in Tuskegee. It was called the International Conference on the Negro, where he brought Africans to Tuskegee to organize them and try to train them on how to go back to Africa and build modern institutions. Booker T was supposed to present at Henry Sylvester Williams's 1900 First Pan-African Conference. Booker T was supposed to be there, okay? Excuse me there. Booker T was supposed to be there, but he wasn't able to make it, but he actively campaigned and advertised for Henry Sylvester Williams and the First Pan-African Congress. And also, Tuskegee sent students to African nations to do farming and cultivation and institution building. So when we look at the Garvey-Booker T relationship, it wasn't purely about education. It was about Pan-Africanism as well. Booker T was a Pan-Africanist.
Wow. See, that's why I tell people, man, if you listen to understand, you might learn something, right? If you listen, because that in all my reading, I never knew that. And I've read extensively on Booker T and Marcus Garvey, and I never knew that. So you just enlightened me. Now, I want to talk about your book, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about your book because I don't want to give too much away. But if you can give a brief synopsis of what this new book is about.
Black Parent Advocate, I like to call it an encyclopedia. It's 550 pages plus. It's probably thicker than the Bible. And inside of it is a collection of letters, sample letters that parents can use to send to the schools for a variety of issues. I brainstormed as many possible issues that I felt was necessary to address for Black parents. And in addition to the letters, and I talk about each issue, and then I provide a sample letter to deal with the issue. But in addition to that, the part 2 of the book, I teach parents how to review the psychological evaluation report, how to review the IEP, how to review the pre-referral intervention program, how to review the behavior intervention program. So in this book, which is a follow-up to my first book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, which is out of print right now because I'm working on the second edition, this book really follows up on that by giving parents the nuts and bolts, the how to. This is the how to intervene on behalf of your child encyclopedia. And I'm the first school psychologist to do it. None of our great ancestors who were psychologists ever put together a volume of work for Black parents that teaches them how to intervene specifically. I'm the first to do it. So this book is one of its kind. It's the only one of its kind. And if you live in the state of North Carolina, you need to be at Cuzzo's Cuisine this Thursday, December 17th from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock and get your copy of the book. They will be $50, credit card, cash, or cash app. They can be ordered on the website, drumarjohnson.com. You can order them on the website, but they're a little more expensive on the website because they have to pay for shipping. But you can get them for just $50 in person. 550 plus pages. It'll carry you through the whole winter time to read it and really master the miseducation machine and how to reverse it.
It's crazy that you say that, because the terms that you mentioned about what the book teaches the parents how to intervene in, most Black parents don't know those terms.
Oh, they don't.
Right?
They absolutely don't.
They don't know that those terms even exist.
They absolutely don't. Educational law is a section of the law that Black parents are totally ignorant about. They don't understand special ed law, mental health law, special ed procedure. They don't know their rights. For example, most parents don't know that you can refuse the psychological evaluation. They don't know that you can exit your child from special education services. They don't know that they have a right to get a second opinion from another school psychologist who they choose, and the school district must pay for it. They don't know that if their child is not receiving the special ed service that they are entitled to, they can make the school district pay for their child to be educated at a private school. That is the law.
So, and in the book, you teach them how
all of this and more. All of this and more. It's a must-have. If you're raising Black children in America and you don't have my book and you know who I am, I would question how committed you are to your child's education, because I'm the only one who's done this.
Wow. Now, how long did it take for you to research and accumulate all the evidence for the book?
3 years. And to be honest with you, I didn't have to do any research because it's all in my head. Having been a school psychologist for 20 years, and studying it an additional 3 to 5, it's about a quarter of a century dealing with mental health and education. I really didn't have to research a lot of it. I just had to brainstorm it all and make sure I put as much as possible in the book to help our parents.
Wow.
But it was a 3-year project. It took me 3 years to
put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But this is the thing. I know you said that, you knew what you wanted to do since 4, right?
Fourth grade,
right?
Since 9.
Right, 9 years old. But when you became an adult, what made you say, it's 100 and no breaks, I'm going all in?
When I got my master's degree, I returned home to Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, to complete my 1-year internship to get certified. And during that year, I came face to face with the school to prison pipeline. I came face to face with how special education and ADHD were being used as psychological handcuffs on Black boys. And I was being asked to evaluate young men who had absolutely nothing wrong with them. I was being asked, evaluate him for an emotional disturbance. He's not emotionally disturbed. Evaluate him for a reading disability. He's not reading disabled. Evaluate him for a math disability. He's not math disabled. Evaluate him for intellectual disability, mental retardation. He's not retarded. It's like 10 of every 12 boys that were sent to me had nothing wrong with them. The problem was they had never been taught. They had never been taught. So it wasn't a disability. It was a delay due to the absence of instruction. And I need your parents, I need North Carolina to really understand that. Your child does not have a disability because they're behind. A disability is the inability to learn. Most of our children can learn. They just are behind academically due to the inferior instruction that they receive.
Wow. So when you came back home and you decided to, like I said, go 100 with no breaks, when you sat back in your home and you decided to do this, what was the vision, Dr. Umar? Like, what was, when you looked at it, how did you envision it?
Well, the vision was just to save as many boys as I could, girls as well, educate as many parents as I could. And then at the time, I was going back for my doctorate, and I was serving as assistant principal at a charter school in Philadelphia. And that's when I decided that I could probably save more children as the principal than I could as the school psychologist.
Right.
You see, and that's when the epiphany happened. And I said, although I love school psychology, psychology is my first love. I need to get my principal certificate and open up my own school. So the vision of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy was with me long before I ever started raising funds to buy a school building.
Nice, nice. So now I understand Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey, the name, right? Like, I understand the correlation. But why did you come up with Fred? There's so many other Black nationalists, Black Pan-Africanists that you could have, you have a bevy of them to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Why Frederick Douglass? Why Marcus Garvey?
Two reasons. Number one, I have a personal connection to each. I'm a blood relative of Frederick Douglass. My 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey, and Frederick grew up together as children on Tuckahoe Creek. He actually mentions my grandfather by name in his autobiographies, Cousin Stephen. Cousin Stephen is Stephen Bailey, Dr. Umar's 4 times great-grandfather. So that's the connection with Frederick Douglass. And with Marcus Garvey, I've been a member of the organization and Minister of Education for quite some time. And of course, Mr. Garvey and I are both Leos. He's August 17th. I'm August the 21st. So we have a lot in common. And in addition to that, I consider them each to be the greatest leader of the respective centuries in which they live. Frederick Douglass being the only leader we had during slavery and freedom, okay? And Marcus Garvey, by far, of the 19th century leaders, was the most prominent, the most progressive, and the most effective. And what I love about each of them, although there's clearly differences in the ideology, is both of them were able to organize without using religion as a tool.
Or violence.
Or violence, absolutely. Although both were willing to fight.
Right.
Both were willing to fight, yes.
They wasn't scared. It's just They didn't need it. They didn't need to have that. Like it's first of all, I didn't know that you said that Marcus was birthday is the 21st of August.
No, he's the 17th.
17th.
I'm the 21st.
Okay, so you got the same birthday as my cousin Noah. So shout out to Noah Adams. But anyway, yeah. But anyway, hey, so as I told you before, man, I've seen you go on interviews, and I just think that the interviewer just they sort of salivating at the mouth when you come because they have an agenda. Like, you know
Yes.
what I mean? They have an
Yes.
agenda, and I think they try to tear you down,
Hmm.
right? And but they don't succeed ever. Like, I've never seen them succeed in doing it.
Hmm.
But when I was approached with the idea of you coming on the show, man, I wanted to hear from you directly how you feel the status of Black America is right now. Like, where do you think we are right now, intellectually, mentally, and just our whole existence? Where do you think we are right now?
Our heads are in the proverbial guillotine right now. You have no serious, national, non-religious political leadership.
Mm.
I'm not talking elected officials. I'm speaking of politics purely in terms of political economic solutions in progress. You have no serious, national, non-religious, okay, because I don't take religious leaders serious, okay? You have no serious, non-religious political leadership. You don't even have a Black bourgeoisie leadership anymore. They've been moved out the way. And part of that is due to the police genocide campaign that really intensified during the presidency of Barack Obama and carried over to the current presidency of Donald Trump, where a lot of Black cities disinvited, okay, your established Black leadership, the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons. They disinvited them from being a part of the protest because they've always been short on solutions, you see. And so the youth did away with the bourgeoisie leadership. And so the government, in place of that, has ushered in the entertainers and the athletes to be the new leaders and spokespersons for Black America, which I think is a very dangerous strategy. It's something that we need to pay attention to because our children are now, emulating and falling in love with the very same people who are being paid to misrepresent their pain and their anger. The athlete as a leader, the entertainer as a spokesperson, that's a very, very dangerous yet powerful setup, because our children are so in love with their athletes and entertainers that they wouldn't dare, evaluate them from a political perspective, which means it's our job to do that. And if we're going to be serious about Black liberation, we're going to have to be serious about exposing the entertainers and athletes who are not effectively articulating our issues and instead are parroting the message that the white power structure wants Black youth to hear.
It's funny that you say that, Dr. Umar, because the whole genesis behind the BRI is I never wanted. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate you being here, and I consider you celebrity status for the BRI. Like, you're a celebrity. But the BRI was totally about common folks, and when I mean common folks, I mean Black entrepreneurs, Black psychologists that may not have the notoriety that you have, right? That may not have the notoriety that you have, but they still doing the same work that you're doing, right? And I wanted people not to rely on those entertainers and stars to look for inspiration. I wanted you to look for everyday people that you see every day to look for inspiration, because these are the people who are going through the same things that you're going through, but they're finding a way to make it happen. Right? They're finding a way to make it happen. But I am never going to pass up the chance to interview someone like yourself, because you've been in the trenches, not only in the trenches in the hood, but you've been in the trenches on the higher levels as well. And so it's like you're a messenger. You've been at that higher level, and you can come back to me or us and be like, look, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And what I like about your message is you tell us what's happening, and then you tell us what we need to do. Right? It ain't just saying this is what's happening. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. You say, okay, yeah, this is happening, but this is what we need to do.
Absolutely. And one of our problems as a people, we have to be honest. Most Black people don't want to be free, and they don't want to be free of white oppression. They want to be comfortable under white oppression. That
Mhm.
when our young people protested, okay, when we go to vote, we're not voting for liberation, because you don't have to vote to get liberated. Okay, you
Right.
don't have to protest to get liberated. You have to organize to get liberated. You vote in protest because you want to participate. You want to participate in your oppressor's reality, but he's not letting you do it. You understand? So most of us are seeking entry into the white power structure. We're not trying to get out of it. And that is a clarity that must be made, a clarification that must be made, because you can see two angry Black people. They're both angry. One is angry because he wants to be free, he wants out. The
Mhm.
other is angry because he wants in. And that's
Mhm.
why we cannot assume that all of us, just because we're angry at police brutality, we're angry at mass incarceration, we're angry at miseducation. But what is our vision for change? For a lot of us, there is no vision of liberation. We want a better accommodation under
Mhm.
white power. We don't want a Black liberation.
It's crazy that you say that, because I tell everybody, if you march and you protest and you boycott, at the end of all of that, you still got your hand out, right?
Yes,
Like
you're looking for something.
you're
And don't
looking.
get me wrong, there is a benefit to marching. There's a benefit to the vote, but only if it's organized. So, for example, we had the 2020 protests for justice that were initiated with the assassinations of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. Condolences to their families. Rest in peace to the deceased. There were three mistakes that were made with those protests. Mistake number one, it wasn't all Black.
Right,
We allowed it to be multiculturalized. And the
right,
minute we did that, the Black agenda was taken straight off the table by everybody. That's
right.
number one. Learn to march by yourself. We still haven't learned it because we're so insecure about being Black and being accepted. Number two, there was no clearly identified leadership or spokespersons whose job was to articulate the Black agenda. Who
Mhm.
is the mouthpiece to the white power structure? We had no mouthpiece. So,
Mhm.
because there was no official mouthpiece, anybody was able to put their narrative on top of the protests and make it fly. The Democrats used the protests to basically get Joe Biden elected. They just exploited it for votes. Okay. Different groups exploited it for their agenda. It was never about Black people by the time it was over. And I'm disappointed in this because those protests were the most comprehensive, protracted protests we've seen in America since the Dr. King assassination protests of 68. 52 years. And the media had never put a light on the plight of Black America like they did a few months ago, and we totally wasted it. And the third mistake that we made was we did not project a platform of demands to the world. There was no platform. I have never seen a movement that doesn't have a 10-point platform, a 5-point platform, a 7-point platform. There was nobody articulating mass incarceration. Nobody was articulating miseducation. Nobody was even articulating what we wanted from the police genocide cases. Okay,
Right.
nobody said we want the police to all be held accountable and charged with hate crime when they kill unarmed Black people. That was never put out. So Nancy Pelosi remixed that into the so-called crime bill, which is actually a comic bill because it was laughable, the lack of accountability that was built into that bill for police who kill Black people. We totally wasted it. We wasted it. The only thing worse than those protests was Barack Obama's presidency. Obama's presidency and the 2020 protests for justice are two of the greatest failures of Black America to respond in the moment to force their issues on the table.
Okay, now you got to enlighten me on that. So I'm not. I'm. What do you mean, Barack presidency? Enlighten me.
Barack Obama fought for every minority group in America except Black people. He hired record numbers of LBGTs to federal court benches. He hired a record number of LBGTs to general employment. He passed 3 laws for the LBGT. He passed laws for immigrants. He passed laws for women. Not one law, not a single law did he pass to protect Black people. In 8 years, you can't give me one law that Obama passed to benefit Black people.
You know, I have and I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Umar, I have a different stance on that, and my stance on that is that I sort of look at Barack Obama the same way I look at Thurgood Marshall, right? I love Thurgood Marshall, but when he went to the Supreme Court, right, they sort of made him ineffective because he's one justice, right? He's just one justice. So when I look at Barack Obama, I didn't really look at him to do anything dynamic for Black America except 2 things. A lot of people don't understand that when you register to vote, you're also making yourself eligible for jury duty, right? Like you're making yourself eligible for. That's how the jury pool is decided by registered voters, right? And then the next thing is, before Barack Obama, I could not look my son in the face and be like, "Yo, you can be anything you want to be." Right, like, and so to me, it was symbolism. I don't think like the first of anything is gonna get everything right, but to me, it was symbolism. So, but when you look back and you say, well, he didn't pass no laws for Black people, you're absolutely right. That's undeniable. You can't even deny that fact, right? That you can't deny it. But for me, it was just, I guess I fell into the hope factor, right? Like I think a lot of us did, just happy that somebody that looks somewhat like me is there.
But here's the issue, though, respectfully, those who fell into the hope factor because they were looking for better accommodation, not Black liberation. Because if you're looking for Black liberation, you don't care what color the president is, he still represents the white power structure of America. And my problem with Black America, because of our political immaturity, we failed to recognize that Barack Obama was only a spokesperson for a larger system over which he exercises no control. So I don't want Black people to single him out for special criticism. I want them to treat him the same way we treated every other president, which was an enemy of Black America, period. Barack Obama is no different than Abraham Lincoln, which happens to be his hero, by the way, which told me from the beginning he wasn't going to do anything for Black people. Anytime you have a white supremacist as your hero, a Black man has a racist as his hero, something's wrong with that. You see, but again, with Obama, if we really want Black liberation, why are we comfortable with symbols? People who want to be free don't care about no symbols. We want freedom, true justice, and not symbolism. So for Black people to say, well, my son, my daughter got a chance to see a Black family in the White House. We've had greater Black families than Michelle and Barack. We've had Black families who actually struggled for Black people. I mean, look at the pantheon of heroes that we've had that we can look to, with who were genuine freedom fighters for Black people, not fictitious like a Barack Obama, but genuine freedom fighters. And I can't put Thurgood Marshall in the same category with the Barack Obama. The same reason why I can't put Nelson Mandela in the same category with the Barack Obama. Although they may have grown weak as elders, Nelson Mandela and Thurgood Marshall still had a history of struggle as youth. Thurgood Marshall struggled to desegregate those schools. You understand? His life was put at risk and threatened several times. So he has a history of grassroots struggle. So does Nelson Mandela. Barack Obama has no history at all that anybody can show that he ever fought for black people a day in his life.
I mean, I can't find one, but that's why I prefaced it and said that once they gave Thurgood Marshall, once he was elected to, well, appointed to the Supreme Court, they sort of tied his hands.
Well, that was a consolation prize. Thurgood Marshall was appointed and confirmed for the Supreme Court in the aftermath of the riots of the riots of 67 and 68. And so the government said, we got to give black people something to stop the fires and the bombs and the looting. You understand? You had the Detroit riot, you had the Newark riot, you know, you had the red hot summer of 67. So the country was up in a blaze. And so they only put, if there were no riots, if 1967, if that red hot summer of 67 never happened, if Dr. King was never assassinated, Thurgood Marshall would have never been on the Supreme Court. That was a consolation prize to Black America.
And Dr. Umar, you know what's crazy about that is once they gave us that consolation prize, nothing happened in the 70s.
Oh, yes.
Like there was like the 70s was like a graveyard for, you know, Black Americans, and so to speak, and as far as trying to liberate themselves from white oppression.
Well, remember now, the government wanted to make sure that Black America could never organize and present a formidable challenge to the white power structure ever again. So once they waged war, after they assassinated Dr. King, 68, and then they assassinated Fred Hampton, I believe in 69. When they came into the 70s, they said, we're going to get rid of the Black power and the Black Liberation Army. And then we're going to declare chemical warfare on Black America and economic warfare on Black males. So in 1970, they destroyed the economic foundation of the Black community by doing two things in the 70s. Taking out all the industrial building trade programs from our high schools and taking all the factories out of the ghetto. Most of our parents were able to live comfortable, decent lives with no college education. They would go and work for the factories and live a decent life with a decent retirement. The government said, if we want to destroy Black America, we got to destroy the Black dollar if we want to kill Black power. If we don't kill the Black dollar, we won't be able to kill the Black power. So they went into the high schools, make sure no Black males could learn how to use their hands again. No more electricians, no more plumbers, no more carpenters. And then we're going to take all the factories out of the inner city too. We're going to starve them economically. And then in 1980, we're going to drop the crack off. And then in 1990, Bill Clinton dropped off his 1994 crime bill with mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug-related offenses. And so Bill Clinton effectively locked up more Black men than any Republican president in American history. And then in the year 2000, George Bush hit us with the faith-based initiative, where he started funding Black churches with federal money. And that is what effectively sidelined the Black church from being the backbone advocates and instigators of Black justice. If you notice, since the year 2000, and we're only 20 years in, the first 20 years of this century, you can't name me a single megachurch minister. You can't name me a single megachurch minister on the national level who is involved in a serious struggle against mass incarceration, miseducation, gentrification, police genocide, or access to wealth. You can't name one. And that is the effect of George Bush's faith-based initiative. Your pastor is the new FBI.
Wow. See, that's why I was salivating at the mouth to get you on here, bro, because like this is information, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm the type of person, Dr. Umar. You can't tell me anything, man. Like you can't tell me. So whatever we are discussing tonight on this live, you know, I'm gonna go back and research. Like I'm gonna
Oh,
go back.
please do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and research, and you know, now that we've connected with one another, I'll be a man to be like, Dr. Umar, you was right, yo. I done researched it and I can't find nothing. And that's how I am. But I wanted you to come up here because I wanted people to see you unapologetically and not being in a hostile environment. Tony wanted me to ask you what you think about Ice Cube's contract with Black America.
Well, I'm sure Ice Cube been watching a lot of my material because it made it into his contract. As I'm sure many of the celebrities and entertainers, they watch a lot of Dr. Umar. I see a lot of my talking points come out their mouth. I see a lot of my bullets end up on their paperwork, and that's not a criticism. I'm glad that they're doing the right thing. So I supported what Ice Cube did because he put out a platform and he remained neutral and not aligning himself with the Democrats or the Republicans. He said, who's ever willing to hear me out, I will conversate with them on this issue. Now, of course, the Black bourgeoisie, okay, chided and tried to beat down Ice Cube for not aligning himself with the Democrats because, you know, they've made the Democratic Party believe that Black America is their personal chattel property. You understand? So I appreciate Ice Cube standing neutral, okay, and being willing to speak with any side who wanted to speak. Of course, it was the Republicans who stepped up and said they wanted to hear him. Joe Biden said we'll get to it after I get elected, which clearly shows you the Democrats ain't thinking about taking Black America seriously. Neither are the Republicans. See, again, Ice Cube did the right thing, but one man can't change this. You need systems to fight systems. We're dealing with systems. We're not dealing with individuals. And that's one of the reasons why it bothers me when Black America treats Obama like he's a hero and treats Donald Trump like he's a villain. Donald Trump is only the face. You can't name anything Donald Trump doing to Black folks that wasn't done before Donald Trump got into the White House. You understand? He did no more for Black people than Barack Obama did. You understand? So we have to understand that the president is only a mouthpiece and a symbol. He's a mascot of white power. That's all the president is, a mascot of white power. But because we don't understand how the American political system works, we think if you elect the right person, things will change. Black people have been voting since 1867, the 15th Amendment. That's 150 some odd years of voting, okay? And nothing's changed. Because voting isn't going to change anything until you organize your vote and run your own candidates and finance your own candidates. As long as they have us hooked into a Democratic Republican dichotomy, as long as Black America is brainwashed into believing you have to be Democrats and Republicans, we'll never get anything.
I always say we need to start acting like an interest group. Right, like
we need to start acting like an independent nation, which is what we are.
Well, I told someone the other day, Dr. Umar, and it's funny that you said that. I was like, look, the census say we 43 million strong. 43 million people is larger than it. That would make us the equivalent of the 5th largest nation in Africa. Like we are a nation within a nation, and I don't think that we really understand that. There's power in numbers, but everybody wants to do their own thing, Dr. Umar. Like everybody wants to put forth their own agenda. Everybody wants to be chief. Nobody wants to be
Indians. And not only that, because of our petty differences and our self-hate and our post-traumatic slavery disease, we don't even want the most capable people to lead. Right. Because we don't want them to get any credit. So you want to be free, but you want nobody getting credit for your freedom. So we would rather nobody lead and stay where we are than move forward and somebody get the credit. The only people we don't mind getting credit are athletes and entertainers. They can get credit, but real people with real programs, with real agendas, they're not allowed to get credit. I believe that this generation of Black people is the most self-hating, anti-progressive generation of Black folks we've ever had in the United States. You can't show me another generation of Black folks who waste so much time and money on nonsense with the type of problems that we have before us. I mean, you have YouTube. People have the right, the ability to create their own media outlet. Every person has the right to create their own media outlet. You would think we would use it for things such as what you're doing. Okay, putting correct information out there, discussing the critical topics. Most of our people on YouTube aren't doing that. You know what they're doing? They're chasing gossip. They're slandering each other. They're worrying about celebrity news, sports, rap. They're insulting one another. They're putting videos showing Black people making a fool of themselves. You mean to tell me we have the chance to project information around the world and we don't want to do anything with it except project the worst of ourselves? That's why we need the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, because as Frederick Douglass said, it's better to raise strong children than to repair broken men.
I know that's right. So I got a couple of people. I don't know why my comments are not showing, but I got a couple of people. They trying to figure out where to get your book at. So you said it at the beginning of the show online. Let people know again where they can get the book at online.
And online, they can get the book at drumarjohnson.com.
Okay.
drumarjohnson.com online. And if they want to get it in person, I'll be in North Carolina Thursday, Cuzzo's Cuisine, 2 o'clock till 8 o'clock. There will be a lecture and a Q&A session at 2, which will last until about 3 or a little thereafter. And then I'll be signing books from 3 until 8. They can get it there. Okay. I will also be in South Carolina, Charleston, on January the 15th, Dr. King's birthday, Friday, January the 15th. I'll be in Charleston at Diamond Cuts Barbers Lounge for the book release. And the very next day, I'll be in Macon, Georgia for the first time, Saturday, January the 16th, for a book release there as well.
Hey, brother, it has definitely been an enlightening experience for me. And I appreciate you, like I said, taking the time out to do the interview with me, man, because I'm a small fry. You know, I'm a small fry. I just started doing my podcast maybe a month ago, and I got the opportunity to interview you, and you was gracious enough to do the interview, and I'm honored, bro. I'm very honored, and you know, whenever you want to come on the show and enlighten us some more, then you more than welcome, bro. You more than welcome. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to speak with you and to interview you for myself, because like I told you, I want people to resonate with you, Dr. Umar, not to antagonize you or like I agree with everything that you had to say. Once again, man, I'm honored. But before we go, it's customary that I ask my guests 2 questions before I leave.
And before you give me those questions, let me say to your listening audience, if any of them wants to donate to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy campaign, as I said, we're trying to have the Nat Turner Gym and Marcus Garvey Elementary School ready by the springtime. They can donate on the Cash App at $FDMG School. I repeat, on the Cash App, $FDMG School. And on the PayPal, they can donate at paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Again, that's paypal.me/FDMG Academy, or they can mail in their donations payable to FDMG Academy to P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809, or they can go to drumarjohnson.com and sign up to be a loyal donor. They can be a loyal donor, which means you agree to automatically have a certain amount of money donated out of your account to the school. $50 a month is bronze, $100 a month is silver, $250 a month is gold, $500 a month is platinum, and $1,000 a month is diamond. And they can sign up for that at drumarjohnson.com.
I think I'm gonna do the little video that I did for you for your book signing for the 17th. I'm
Yes,
so I'm gonna air that on tonight, so that they'll see your cash app and everything on that flyer. So
appreciate it.
I'm gonna air that after the interview. But my two questions are: number one, what what are you doing to push the culture forward? I know it's a silly question, but
Well, the two biggest things that I'm doing is number one, building an independent school for Black boys where we're going to teach them how to be men. And we're going to teach them the principles of Pan-Africanism and international economics. So not only they will be politically conscious, but they'll be economically relevant to their community. And the other thing I do is I think I'm the foremost professional in the country right now who's helping parents save their children from the school to prison pipeline.
okay. Now this next question, I know it's gonna be easy for you because we've been talking, but I need for you to name me three famous Black people, but they can't be athletes or entertainers.
Oh, wow. I'll go to the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism. I'll go Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, who's the
Mhm,
first Black man to say God was Black.
mhm,
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad went to his school as a child. Okay. He was Marcus Garvey before Marcus Garvey. I go to Major Dr. Martin Robinson Delaney, who was the first Black person admitted to Harvard Medical School, but he was kicked out because the white students refused to be educated with him. He became the first Black officer in the Civil War. He was one of the first Black newspaper publishers. He was one of the first Black men nominated by a major party to be vice president of the United States. And he was one of the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism who created the phrase Africa for the Africans. Marcus
mhm.
Garvey borrowed that from Major Dr. Martin Robinson Delaney, and he added to Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. I can also come up with Henry Highland Garnett, who
Barnett.
was the first Black preacher to give an address on the floor of the U.S. Congress. He debated Frederick Douglass at a Negro convention up in Buffalo, New York, where he said that we should not be trying to free the slaves with moral persuasion and political liberation. We should arm the slaves and equip them to fight for their own liberation. And he had one dream before he died, and that was to go to Africa, which he did. And he died in Liberia, West Africa. I can go to Alexander Crumble, another Pan Africanist who built the first.
Ho ho ho! You giving people answers, Dr. Umar. You can't give people
Okay.
answers. Three, man.
Pan Africanism will perish.
You giving people answers like, but you wouldn't believe it though, Dr. Umar, how many people actually get stuck on that last question.
Wow.
And it saddened
Wow.
it saddened me, like, and I asked that question simply because I believe that we should know about ourselves, like like we should actually know about ourselves and know about the people who laid down the framework and the fight for us, but we don't know about them, right?
Mhm.
Like we don't know about, as I told you before, there are many Black people that if you say the name Marcus Garvey, they don't know who he is.
Well, some of that is
It's
due to
by
the fact.
design. It's
Well,
design.
it's definitely by design because Garvey is the only leader who didn't have to use religion to keep Black people's attention. And he also kept our people focused on Africa, where every leader after Garvey both used religion and took our people's attention away from Africa. And the other reason why Garvey has been hidden is because most of the leaders who copied Marcus Garvey didn't want to give him credit for doing so. So they had to keep Garvey a secret because if you understand Garvey, you will recognize that a lot of what other leaders claim to be their teachings are nothing but Garveyism disguised as somebody else's work.
Well, well, you would know this. I'm a Moorish American,
Mhm.
so right. So you already know that Noble Drew Ali was definitely fond of Marcus Garvey and the Garvey Act.
Yeah.
So that was
Well, they
definitely
were
his,
pals. They got along.
right, right. So I tell people the UNIA sparked the Nicaraguan movement, which actually turned into the NAACP, right? Like, but people want to think that the NAACP just came out of a vacuum, like it just appeared, right? Like it just appeared. As I told you before, the Red Cross was inspired by the UNIA, right? Like point blank. And when you
Well,
don't know,
CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations,
yeah,
was started in 1920, 1921 by the Rockefellers to disrupt Marcus Garvey's influence on the African continent. Also, white women got the right to vote. The amendment that gave white women the right to vote, it was no coincidence that came in 1920, 1921, because white women protested the Department of State that Marcus Garvey had women in his organization who were not only allowed to vote, but to get elected and to be leaders of not only the secular aspect of the organization, but the military aspect of the organization. And so, in essence, Marcus Garvey shamed the U.S. government into allowing the white women the right to vote.
right, right. Hey, brother, once again, man, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
And hang back in the green room while I do my outro, man. And
Okay.
I want to talk to you. But everybody, Dr. Umar Johnson, man, make sure you if you're in Charlotte on the 17th, go to Cuzzo's Cuisine and check him out. I'm gonna play his commercial now so that you can see where you can donate to the school. But man, thank you, Dr. Umar. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna play your commercial now, brother. Somebody trying to troll. I didn't even put it up there.
Where is it on YouTube already?
Yeah.
This is Dr. Umar Johnson, Black America's #1 certified school psychologist. Join me in Charlotte, North Carolina this Thursday, December 17th from 2 to 8 for a Black Parent Advocate book release lecture and signing at Cuzzo's Cuisine, 3418 Tuckasegee Road. There will be a free lecture from 2 to 3, book signing after that. For more information, CuzzosCuisine.com.
Hey, everybody, this is Arthur Custodio Gomes, and I'm checking out BRI, Black Research Institute, with my brother, Denoris Wilson. So check him out.
What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your girl Paulette from Suitland, Maryland, and you're watching BRI Black Research Institute with my boy Denoris Wilson. Stay tuned.
Okay, everybody. You see my DJ right here, DJ Tony Cutlass. We got an after party. Something's a little treat for y'all. But that was Dr. Umar Johnson, man. I appreciate him taking the time out of his busy day to come to the BRI and just inform us about what he had going on, about the school, about the book, man. And you know, I learned something. And I want everybody to understand something. Like, we have to stop, like, you know, antagonizing each other. And look, we're not all gonna agree. we're not all going to agree. We're not all going to see things the same way. But if you're not doing anything to help the problem or solve the problem, then don't be a problem. Like my grandmother used to always say, if you ain't got nothing good to say, then don't say nothing. I appreciate the brother. The brother is out here and he's trying. And I know it's incredibly hard for him, especially just dealing with Black people in general. Like, I know it's incredibly hard for him. And one thing I admire about the brother is that, people come from him. People come for him on everything that he tries to do. But one thing no one can ever say that Dr. Umar, at least I haven't seen, he doesn't clap back. He takes it and he keeps moving. So, I appreciate the brother. But everybody, this is the BRI, and we come in here and we committed to solving the problems, just like Dr. Umar is, and he's doing the work. So I'd like to thank him again. And everyone, if you're in Charlotte on the 17th, Cuzzo's Cuisine, you can go to Dr. Umar's website, get the book. Even if you feel like his message doesn't resonate with you, get the book. And maybe you will get a deeper understanding about where the brother is coming from and what he's trying to do. Like get the book and support the brother, because the brother's doing good work. So as always, I leave y'all and say, be blessed, have a good night, and remember, in order for you to receive a blessing, you must first be a blessing. Peace. We got the after party in about 15 minutes, so stay tuned. What's up, everybody? My name is Denoris Wilson, and I'm the founder, creator, and CEO of the BRI, which is the Black Research Institute, where we're here and we're committed to solving the problems. It's not going to be a long video, something sweet, short, straight to the point. If you are an influencer, personality, content provider, content creator, you have your own show, you're thinking about doing a show, then I'm extending an open invitation for you to come to the BRI and let us broadcast your informational content to a different audience than the audience that you're personally capturing. If you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, inventor, financial specialist, real estate specialist, health specialist, trainer, fitness trainer, life coach, I'm also extending the invitation to you to come out and let the BRI interview you so more people know about your product and services. Let's combine the forces of our prospective followers into one network and make history. So we can be reached at dcgrfx@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on our prospective social medias, Facebook and Instagram, username DCGRFX007. I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. But until then, happy holidays, everyone, and stay blessed. And remember, in order for you to receive a blessing, you must first be a blessing. All right.